Well, it happens every minute of every day. Minors are being bought and sold for sex. With January being National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, it's appropriate that one organization, Southern Arizona Anti-Trafficking Unified Response Network, is making an effort to raise awareness that they exist and that they can help. SAATURN member from the Pima County Juvenile Court, Sheila Kembel, is here with more. Sheila, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to see you. It's a tough topic that we're talking about today, but there is hope, especially with organizations like SAATURN. So let's talk about SAATURN and what you guys do and what your mission is.
Absolutely. SAATURN is a grant-funded collaboration between Tucson Police Department and Kodak Behavioral Health. There's other partners involved too, other federal partners, Department of Homeland Security and FBI.
Got it. And I mentioned that it's happening in every city. Does that include Tucson?
It absolutely includes Tucson. We see sex trafficking here on a fairly regular basis, and it's something that we're actively watching for and trying to educate the community on.
And so a lot of those kids and children that are involved in this are runaways. And so can you give us some statistics around that and what the impact of that is here in Tucson?
Absolutely. So one of the highest risk factors for becoming involved in sex trafficking is being a runaway. For the year 2017, through the juvenile court, we had approximately 1,300 runaway referrals. So what that means is that there was 1,300 opportunities for these youth who had run away from home to become involved in sex trafficking.
Yeah, and it's hard to pinpoint really an accurate number like you were telling me in the break, because a lot of these aren't reported. And so these are just the numbers that you know of so far. And so let's talk about, I mean, you say runaways are some of the groups at highest risk of being involved in sex trafficking, but what's the average age and maybe some other risk factors involved in that?
So what the research shows us is that the average age that juveniles become involved in sex trafficking is 14. Ugh. 14 years old. It's very young. And of course we see them younger and we see them older, but the average age is 14. We know that other risk factors are youth who are placed in group homes that are involved with the juvenile court system, involved with Department of Child Safety, kids that are runaway homeless. And we also know too that kids are at risk through other things that are just normal activities for juveniles, going to the mall, going to the bus station. Those are all risk factors. And we have to remember that one of the biggest risk factors is social media.
Yeah. Social media, the internet, I mean, it's such an open, wide place these days with really so many pitfalls that anybody can really fall into, and that includes websites like Backpage.com. Can you tell us what that is and what part it plays in this?
Absolutely. So Backpage.com is a website that people can go to and they can buy and sell appliances, cars, they can advertise for jobs, places to rent, apartments, homes, anything like that. But also what's happening on there is there's sections of it where juveniles are actually being sold for sex. And that's the part of it that we're very concerned about.
Right. I mean, it's hard to imagine how devastated they are by this, how powerless they might feel, and also their parents, for example. And the fact is that there are signs that people can learn to recognize. If there is something like this happening, how can people get involved and what are the signs that they should look out for?
So we really encourage parents to just be aware of what their kids are doing. Be very mindful of their behaviors and activities on social media. Make sure that you're understanding what they're doing and that they know you're looking at what they're doing. Also very important to pay attention to who kids are hanging out with. We talk a lot about victims of sex trafficking being the girls, but we have to remember that victims also can be the boys.
Right.
We don't see it as much, but that does not mean that it's not happening. What we see with the girls is that they have older boyfriends. So if a 14 or 15-year-old has an older boyfriend who's 25, 26, that should be a warning sign, and that's problematic. Right. Also be mindful if they start having clothes or they're having their hair done or their nails done, they have jewelry, they have electronic devices. extra phones that the parents haven't provided them, and they don't have any resources to be able to obtain that.
Well, these are signs that they can look out for, and parents every day can be part of this fight and be mindful of what their children are doing. People can get involved in this with SAATURN, and help out in the cause. You guys have an event coming up, for example, that's going to screen a film called I Am Jane Doe, which takes an in-depth look at how it affects parents and their kids, and it really takes heartbreaking sometimes look at how this affects their lives. And so that's playing at the Loft. It's sold out right now, we should note, but people should still show up, because if someone doesn't show up, then they can get a ticket. There'll be a lot of great resources there, including some speakers that people can take advantage of. So Sheila, thank you so much for what you're doing at SAATURN and everybody else that you work with in bringing awareness to this and fighting it every day.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Now, SAATURN will be hosting that screening of the documentary I Am Jane Doe tomorrow at the Loft Cinema starting at 6:30 p.m. Now, like I said, the event is sold out as of now, but additional seats may open up if you show up. To learn more about this event or this organization, please visit SAATURN.org or call 520-837-2775.